up, everyone? Welcome back to Wake Up, Speak Up podcast. I am your co-host, Hope Amparo, and today I have a very, very special treat and a very special guest. My, honestly, I feel like so long, my lifetime friend, Symara St.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am very, very excited.
Me too.
Yes, I wanted to have you on here because I feel like you just get me so much, and just the things that I feel like, God is even moving in this time and really with what he's speaking. And I'm really excited to have you on just to share about like some of the things that you've learned and the things that you and Pastor Thomas have gone through. I know my husband had obviously your husband on, but since you're coming into town, I was really, really excited to have you on. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into all the good stuff.
First off, I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
About me. I guess where I could start is obviously married to Pastor Thomas.
Yes.
We live in Daytona Beach now.
Yes.
He's associate pastoring the RAVEN Daytona Church there alongside Pastor Aaron and Destiny Frazier.
Mm-hmm.
We've been there about 2 years now. We moved there from here. We were asked to go there by the apostle and pastor of our ministry, Pastor Troy Bond. He asked us before we even married if we would move there and go and be of help to that work and advance the kingdom from over there.
Yeah.
I'm 24 years old. I did not grow up in the ministry. My parents were not pastors, preachers. I mean, on one side of my family, my mom's side of the family, there was a lot of people who laid claim to the Word of God with no real evidence of, being born again ever. You had a certain part of the crowd who would, go to church here and there, but live a completely, contrary lifestyle to the things that they
So you're with the knowledge.
I would barely say for me with the knowledge, early on. And then from my dad's side of the family, there was almost, for years, not even a mentioning of Jesus for him.
Yeah.
And everything like that. I mean, I have amazing parents, both
they're
mom
amazing.
and dad.
Yeah.
Blessed to have them both and have them both still. Have always been married as long as I've been alive, just about, and come to the Lord in their 30s. So in my young teen years, I came to the knowledge of Jesus. I came here for a Raven Revolution when I was 13, and I had an experience with the Lord that was like nothing else. I mean, I just remember just being in a service and just asking the Lord into my life, and in that moment it was as if there was such a strong just presence of the Lord. I literally had to beg the Lord to stop because I felt like I couldn't breathe.
You're gonna
I was
get
just
crushed.
literally weeping. And even in that moment, it seemed as if I kind of skipped this part. So if I could backtrack a little bit, if you don't mind. But growing up, because there was no real knowledge of the things of God at all, I know without a shadow of a doubt, and I tell people this all the time, that the Lord placed questions in my heart that made no sense because nobody was talking about the Lord. No mention, no Bibles laying around. I mean, that's something you find in a hotel room. I don't remember seeing a Bible for years of my life. I don't remember seeing a Bible, but I remember being 4 or 5 years old and asking an uncle of mine, what's the difference between Jesus and God? What's
you're
the
kidding.
Holy Spirit?
That's
5 years
crazy.
old, 4 or 5 years old, having these questions where
So he was already starting something.
always, I feel like.
Oh, thank you,
I
Lord.
feel like always. And
What a beautiful thing that is.
and it made no sense at all. other than it was him. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. It's like I said, there was no mention of, the things of God. I mean, I could count on my hand how many times we really went to church before, me really being born again. It was, one hand, like I said,
Yeah. So like the big holidays and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, exactly that. It was exactly that. And that was even sometimes, like I said, I could count on one hand how many times we really went, But yeah, the Lord really
what
put
is the
those
Holy
questions
Spirit at
in my
5 years old is just
doesn't make
like,
any sense
to me. That's crazy, because for a kid to even go up in church to ask that at
that
5
kind
years
of
old
question. Yep.
is wild.
I remember asking that question, and the answer was, I don't know.
Man.
And I don't know. I think, I remember him saying, I think they're the same, in some sense they're the same but different. They're both, really good, but I can't tell you where, where the difference lies, or, who is who, or, whatnot. And I just remember him asking me, but why, though? Why? And I just remember saying, I don't know. I'd been thinking about that, and I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
And I remember asking a couple people after that, and it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
Can't tell you. I don't know the difference. But fast forward to that summer being here for that Raven Revolution, and the presence of the Lord just, coming into my life, the Lord really coming into my life in that moment. I just remember feeling like every question that I had ever had,
Yeah.
or just every thought concerning God that I ever had, I still didn't know, because at that point I was so green, there was no discipleship, whatever. But not that it didn't matter, but it almost felt answered.
Wow.
If that makes sense. Like, he is real. I've always felt that he was real, but he's very real to me, and I got to tell somebody. That was like the immediate thing. I got to tell somebody, like.
Yeah.
And I just remember there's still like this picture that I have saying, on this day, I gave my life to Jesus. I was 13 years old, and my mom still has it. It's like a, like a piece of paper where I had written it
through.
in a heart, had written, on this July such and such, I, gave my life to Jesus, and so forth. And I remember leaving from that revolution and just being on fire, and just saying, I cannot wait to get back home to tell my family. Little did I know, I was coming back home to find out that my aunt, who had been battling cancer and was supposed to have only lived like 6 months and lived for 3.5 years, had passed away the morning of me going back home, or that night before,
This is when
or
you were
something.
13.
When I was 13, I was coming back from the revolution, and they didn't want to tell me, and me be, on the road with people that I didn't know particularly well yet, and having to grieve and deal with that. And so they waited until I got back. So the moment I hit the door, I'm thinking about telling them about Jesus, and everybody is like looking at me like, and they're just staring at me, and they're crying and whatnot, and they tell me. And I just remember my heart dropped, but in that same moment, just this fire welled up in me, and I said, that's why you need to know Jesus.
Wow.
And I had no, quote unquote, full gospel to preach, because I didn't know it. I just knew what the Lord had done in my life, and I knew that we needed it. And in that moment, it was prime example. This is why you need to serve Jesus, because one day your day is going to come, and you need to know him. Unfortunately, she didn't know him. There was a knowledge. There was I remember, seeing, now I can look back on it as an adult, and having known the Lord, that there were times where the Lord was really after her and really wanted to do something in her, because she was a person who, kind of like how people explain like certain people who are, like worldly, and man, if this person was serving the Lord, or if they just got that thing, about them, people follow them, people listen to them, they want to be around them, she was somebody like that, you know? And so for her to pass away and for me to say to them, like, that's why you need to know Jesus, because your day is going to come, you know, like you're going to stand before the Lord and you're going to give an account. And now that I know, you're without excuse, because I'm telling you, you need to know Jesus. You know? And so that happens over time of just needing to truly be discipled and truly understand what it was like to walk out a relationship with God and knowing him. At that age, you know, there was a lot of things that got, I would say, just kind of lost in transition, and
well, it's because you're not focus shift. Yeah, you're not accountable yet for yourself, so you kind of have to go with the flow of life, anyways.
And at this point, still, you know, nobody else in my house is serving the Lord or you know anything like that.
Yeah.
A week later, my little brother gives his life to the Lord. Just weeping, kind of not the same experience. I'm sure it was different from him. That's his testimony to tell, but just weeping, like, I want to serve the Lord. I want to tell people about Jesus. Da, da, da. Many people don't know, but Pastor Aaron, who my husband pastors alongside now, he's the reason, you know, to some point that we're still in it. We're still a part of it. He would pick us up for the streets. Him and his wife would come.
I'll start crying when I think
pick
about that.
Me and my little brother up, and we would go to he would take us to the streets every single Friday and Saturday night. They made that sacrifice, like, and people do not know that. People to this day do not know the amount of sacrifice that they, you know, that they did and put forth for us. And to them, it was reasonable service. It was common. They had a little baby. Noah was little at the time. He was
a little guy.
1, 2 years old, and got a bedtime, and he has a wife, and and she, Destiny, his wife, didn't think anything about it. And now I'm there.
It's just crazy to think he was like, basically he was the open door to invite in the help that he needed, which is crazy. Yeah, I can't. That's why I'm crying, because I'm just like, that is just, you just never know.
Yep. It was exactly
Shout
that.
out to Pastor and Destiny. I did it last time, but again, they're the best.
Yes, they are.
They
the absolutely are the best. So much. You know, and to do that with no knowledge of, I mean, people come and go, unfortunately.
Yeah. You could be. You could be
here, and you know, be married to the guy who's helping him, you know, with the work that God has entrusted him with, you know, and building a relationship with from a different platform and a different, I mean, I knew him as a kid, you know, me being a kid, my brother being a kid. I'm an adult, and I don't even say like rekindling, but it's a different relationship, a different bond, and more than him bringing, you know, as children, bringing us into the battleground and protecting us. Now we're doing it alongside each other, and we're warring together. You know, we're in the battlefield, you know, together, and we're leading other people, and we're making that sacrifice for other people to be there, and, you know, carrying on a platform that was created, you know, for all of us, but to see how it's developed and unfolded, and all the people that you thought would still be here and a part of it and are not, and just seeing that it doesn't matter where you come from. I mean, we differ on the fact of how we were raised, and you coming up as a pastor's kid, and you know, my daughter's going to come up as that now, but I did not have that. But I don't, and I believe that there's something special about both.
Oh yeah.
You know? Because we have Jesus in common, and we have you know, I love how the word talks about how you know, it rains on the just and the unjust alike. And something amazing that my husband was preaching one day, in a Bible study, he was saying, well, he does that because he has the same intentions for all of us.
Man.
That's to show us that his intentions are good for both, you know. And now we're here doing the same thing, but we didn't get here the same way, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And he's shown, well, I'm no respecter of person. I'm not laying the sins of
Oh, you know, it's crazy when
generations
saying,
on you anymore.
Of course, when you say this, I think of the scripture where it talks about all the laborers that went out. One got there in the morning, and then one got there late, and they're like, why are you paying them the same? He doesn't care when you get there. He just cares that you get there. And that's it. I just feel like, man, it's so powerful. And then even I feel like with what you, Pastor Thomas, Pastor Aaron, and Destiny are doing, it's like a new thing that's like reviving really in the church. And I think about my dad always tells a story because he handed it over to Pastor Aaron and Destiny. But I remember when he was, I might butcher the story, but when he was deciding whether or not to take on the work, he said, would you do it for Pastor Aaron and Destiny? And then they took it, and then they didn't even know that they were helping y'all, which would initially and eventually help them, which is unbelievable to think about. But that's the hand of God.
Absolutely.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. I feel like I, in some sense, got away from the original, like, question of just, you know, about me. Cause
no, you answered it. You answered it. But I feel like one of the things I want to talk to you about as well is, because I know that we're jumping a lot of things, but how has it been? Because obviously one of the things that I'm like unbelievably passionate about is being a mom. Because I know that you just obviously became a mom, but because they're sweet little Rory. But what do you feel like has changed in your perspective? And do you feel like your fire has even grown? Because I feel like a lot of the things that I see is that you can become a mom and almost lose your fire, or lose your hunger, or lose your place in the Lord. And it's kind of like you take a back seat. I don't know if I'm just I'm just an odd person, but I feel like the more I become, the more I understand, wow, like the Lord has so much for mothers and like what we're supposed to do, because we're growing the next generation. Absolutely. Obviously our husbands are out doing the work of the ministry, they work secular jobs, but we're the ones that are really growing our children to be the next people that take on the next generation. And so I want to get your input on that, and then we'll go over some other stuff too, but I really want to get your input on that.
I think that I don't think my perspective should be unique, because I believe this is what this is his heart and what he's intended for women. I think that in the generation that we live in today, it's become a separate thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Being a mom, raising children, taking care of your house, making it so that your husband can be present, that's Bible.
It's the Word of God.
It's not a separate thing. And so for me, I believe that initially, to kind of put it into perspective a little bit, because before having, my daughter, I was on the front lines too. I still am. It looks different, but I still am. The heart behind it should never change.
Never.
It should never change. Never. It's going to look different, and that's okay. Because
that's how God intended it.
That's how he intended it to be, and there should not be a neglect of your children, your home, your husband, nor the ministry.
No. Or your personal time with him. None of it.
And it's funny you said that, because that part, the personal time with him, and how the Lord has been ministering me and to me in that sense, is what allows me to still have the same perspective that I did. And it's as if I am there on the streets. It's as if, like, that, the level of importance or the fire or the desire to see a generation of people or multiple generations of people be saved, it doesn't change because of that personal time.
Yeah.
And I remember after I had Aurora, just maybe like that first week of just trying to get in the flow of just waking up in the middle of the night multiple times a night, and, tending to her and, trying to make sure that I'm okay from, a physical sense and, my husband tending to me and all these different things, We really never stopped.
Yeah.
When we got home that weekend, my husband went to the streets.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That Sunday, I went to church.
Hey.
That's okay.
Hey. Yeah.
All those things.
Because where else would I be?
They never stopped. I mean, that weekend before I gave birth, I was on the streets every night. I was on the streets. We actually had Biketoberfest in Daytona. It's an event that, we have there, and Pastor Troy brings a team of people, and we witness to bikers from all over the nation, telling them about Jesus and how they need to be saved, just like we do, any other time on the weekend there in Daytona and everywhere else. But I was there every day, and I wasn't looking for a reason to not do it anymore, because it's not just what I do, but this is who I am. I didn't come into this for an experience and then move on and go do something else. Rather be a mom, be whatever, a career, whatever. And those things are not bad.
No.
Those things are not bad.
When they take the place of him, it is. Yeah.
Yes. But when it's who you are, you can't help but to have that mind, to just being kingdom-minded, being, ministry forward, people forward, not just the way that you do it, but why you're doing it. Yeah. That's all we're here for.
Yeah.
And that's your children too.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that these different things that I've mentioned are bad. I'm not saying that at all. I'm talking about the things that continue to be the forefront, is keeping that main thing the main thing,
Advancing the kingdom, which includes your family. Right. Yeah.
And kind of where I was going with that is, I just remember, in those weeks, those things, the going and the being, like for my husband, those things didn't change, and I didn't want them to change. And so I didn't have a problem with him going out and doing, all those things, because that's just who we are.
Yeah.
Me not being able to be there and me taking care of, my daughter, that's ministry to me. Yeah. That's ministry, for a mother, But that personal time, I just remember, like those first couple weeks, it being a little bit difficult to, you want to make sure your baby's breathing. Yeah. And keep her alive. You know, I gotta keep her alive. Yeah. You're waking up at all times.
And you can't trust the camera either, because it could be a glitch. So you gotta go in there and be like, are you okay?
Yeah. Just wanting to make sure your kid Lord is alive.
Lord knows when you do try to do anything, you're like falling asleep. Oh, I was falling asleep standing up.
Checking on them. And it's not because she's waking up or, whatever the case may be. But, I just remember, just trying to help just train her to understand day and night and whatever. And in your mind, you want to do things the way that you always have. And you want to get up at 6 a.m. and go pray and read your word and drink your coffee or whatever, you do, or whoever does. You want to just do it in that way. But now you've got a little person, and she wakes up when she wants to wake up, not when you are ready and when your alarm goes off. She is the alarm.
Yeah, yeah.
You have
it's actually when you're ready to do whatever you need. That's
when they wake up, and that's the alarm.
Yeah,
and you have you have to tend to
and the sound of the alarm is actually you thought.
Right,
yeah, right.
You thought exactly. And that's not to say it in any burden that in any way at all. It's not a burden. It's such a joy. It's a gift from the Lord.
Just real quick. I feel like one of the most aggravating things of life to me is how people paint children to be a burden. And it's crazy that even it happens even in the body of Christ at large. It's unbelievable. And I just feel like as you go through and you watch your children, you learn so much of the heart of God through how he views you and the mercy that he has and the good things that he wants. Because everything that's been put in us as mothers was from Jesus and how he wants us to be. So all the attributes, even though we're women, that's how God made us to be. And that's how he views us in so many ways. So it's like when you feel, when moms are like, well, I lost myself, or I remember how I used to be, or
Good for you.
yeah, I'm like, that's crazy.
Find Jesus. Or?
I'm like, I didn't like, I mean, even though I had the Lord, I'm like, so much of myself was stripped off, and I became so much of a better person. Having children and seeing that gift be like Jesus said, God said, okay, now go forth and multiply. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
And I just think it's wild that even in the church, we find so many people adapting the ways and the thoughts and the ideologies of the world more than they ever do of Bible. And I want to hear your thoughts on
It's so
that.
easy. And kind of like what I was getting to before is just about perspective. And saying that to say, because in the times where things are not, you don't have a schedule and it's not the way that you were, for me, like to do this at a certain time, do that at a certain, have this organized thing, you have a kid, whatever, it's wrecked, doesn't exist anymore. And you're trying to figure out, in the midst of the hustle and bustle of becoming a new parent, or for you having your third or whatever the case may be, you start to figure out like, man, like when am I going to be able to do this? And remember, from the beginning, my daughter has slept through the night like a teenager. I love it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I, always get to sleep through the night, just feeding her or, just, wanting to make sure that she's okay or pumping or whatever, the whole nine, having to do those things.
Pumping's where it's at. That's the rough part. It
is. Yep.
Yeah.
Middle of the night is.
Yeah, when you're doing it, just not even for nobody. It's just because you have to. It's like, she don't even want the milk right now. I just got to do it.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
But, just through the hustle and bustle of, doing all those things, all good things, you start thinking, well, man, when am I going to have time to do this? And at this time I'm doing it. And we forget that something that the Lord reminded me of is I don't revolve around time. I'm not in time.
Oh, my goodness.
You're in time.
Yeah.
But I'm not in time. And it was revealed to me that way because there was one night where she just would not go to sleep. I mean, she was up all night. She was just crying and different things like that. And I'm not aggravated. I'm concerned. I want to know, are you okay? Whatever. My husband rolls over and he's like, you think she's okay? I'm like, I don't know. Like, can we turn the light on? I want to check her, see if, she's like breaking out. It's like, what's going on?
Maybe the clothing,
anything. I turn the light on and she's perfectly fine. Nothing's going on. She stops crying. And she just
wanted to chit-chat.
Looking at me.
Yeah.
Making noise, whatever. And my husband has to work the next morning. And I said, honey, you go back to sleep. I'll go in the living room and walk around with her because she just doesn't really want to lay down. We'll figure it out. Eventually I'll get to bed, whatever. And I'm in there and I'm walking around with her and I'm patting her. And in that moment, it hit me. He's here.
Wow.
Like, the Lord is here. You can talk to him. He's all ears.
Yeah.
It didn't have to be at 6 a.m. every day. If you're up between 2 and 4 o'clock every night, in the middle of the night, and that's the time that you have to hear him and only him, and to drown out all the noise and distractions and, all those things, you talk to him then. You pick up your word then, if that's what you have.
Yeah.
I have the privilege, it's not a right, it's a privilege of being able to be a stay-at-home mother. I have a husband who,
privilege really is what it is.
Come, rain to the knee.
Yeah.
100 degrees,
hiking in snow,
flu, sick, snow, sleet, whatever. He gets up and he goes to work every single day, you know, and he works hard, you know, and he does that so that I can, you know, stay home and take care of her and take care of the house and, you know, the whole nine and everything like that. But it's just like, in that moment, I realized, like, he's with you always. Yeah. You know, like, you can speak to him always. And so something that I started doing, and most people will probably be like, man, you're crazy. Like, while your kid is asleep, you need to get sleep because she's sleeping, whatever the case may be. But that's my time.
You got to find it. I got to find it.
That's my time. You know, that's the time that I can do that. So that's the time that I do that. You know, when my husband falls asleep, and sometimes it's right there in the bed. He's on this side, she's on that side, you know, and I have a couple hours before she's going to get up, and I can pray. I can, if I have to use the Bible app on my phone, I can use the Bible app on my phone. Yeah. But you got to get it.
You got to get it.
You know? And that is the part that can't change when you have a kid.
I feel like it's really, really sad because one of the things that I tell Emerson all the time, if moms would just tap into that, they have no clue. Like, I feel like the weakest times, like where I'm exhausted, where I'm tired, where I can't push, man, showing up. I mean, the presence of the Lord is so thick that you just start weeping. You're just like, and it's in the times where your body's like, nah, like you need to go to bed. Everyone's saying, don't feel bad. You need your rest. You're a new mom. But it's on those times where you push through and you say, I just got to find you. And I know that I can. His presence is just, and you miss out. You miss out on the gift. And it is a gift. And I think what you said is so good because he really can be found anywhere. And that's the most amazing thing I found as a mom.
I think too, I got to give credit to my brother for this. But I remember one time listening to my brother, James, who was preaching a message. I believe it was at the Harvest Center. It may have been at my father-in-law's church. Don't quote me on this, but I just remember him talking about just some of the foundations of serving the Lord and just that we need to constantly find ourselves in this place or everything else is just, it's going to buckle. It's going to fall, you know? And he was talking about prayer. And he said, not only is it our responsibility to pray, but it's your responsibility to keep your mind free to pray and keep your mind free so that you can receive and hear from the Lord. And that changed me. Like, and I don't think I've ever talked to him about that, which is so sad. But that really changed me because, you know, we think of get into the place, get into, you know, a specific place at a specific time. But that's not what he said. He's talking about keeping your mind, you know, free. And in the day and age that we live in, like you talked about, you know, just being conformed to the world. Now, everything is at your fingertips. You can scroll and get an opinion for why you're right or why you're wrong. You can scroll and, you know, take heed and be conformed in that way. It's not... Now, that gets included in the company you keep and what you take in. It's not just...
That's huge.
How we sit in a house and we talk with each other and I can say to you, well, okay... we got to figure something out because you're influencing me in a negative way. Well, now we're paying a phone company and a cable company to, you know, have phone service, have Wi-Fi, whatever, to...
That's why they're called influencers.
To influence you. It's a source for, you know, where it's become a source for all these things that we should be getting from God or that God has placed women in our lives, just like the book of Titus talks about the older women teaching the younger women, you know, how to be, you know, godly wives, how to be godly mothers, sisters in the Lord, servants, what, you know, all the things, the Lord has placed those things in our life to take advantage of them and use them. And I'm big on that. I understand the information and all those things, but from a biblical standpoint, certain things they move out the word of God and the form, we start to have this form of something that God gave us in full, it's this form, and it's become this replacement for that.
Even things that you go and you find on Facebook or on Instagram, and you're like, wow, this person's so good, or what they say, or I agree. But it's always, now there's some, there are very few, but it's always that form of godliness, or it's always the way that seems right. Mm-hmm. That's why it's so important to have, my husband talks about all the time, to have accountability in your own life. Because what some things might be okay for others, it's not okay for you. And what things might be permissible for some, it's not for you. And you know those things, but then you'll go and find somebody and be like, see, it's not that bad. Or see, like, it's not that big of a deal. I can just let it pass. But if God has called you to, but I believe that many are called, but obviously it says in the word of God that few are chosen. But you're called to have a standard of righteousness to be upheld in your life and your family's life. And so, but unfortunately, because we have the form of social media, people would rather find things to lower the standard instead of find something to raise it higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my brother a couple days ago, and I was talking to him about just accessibility that we have when it comes to social media, through all platforms, to see the preaching from other churches and to be able to listen to full sermons, through live recordings or videos from other preachers, where the Lord has given them words for their flock and they're taken a totally different way, but it's because it wasn't for you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was saying that to say because we don't have to go in person to church hop anymore. We can do it from home. When there's not,
insane,
isn't it?
That's insane.
When there's not a level of submission to the ministry that God has placed you in.
You just blow my mind. That's insane.
I see it all the time. Wow. You have people who come in. Because
you don't have to be fully committed. And you can go to the church because you enjoy the fellowship that it brings.
Good praise and worship. Good kids ministry. Good missions. They give. They have a food
the
bank. Potluck. Just different, taking different pieces from, here or there or whatnot. At a certain point, it was you had to decide, I'm not going to this church this Sunday. I'm going to this church next Sunday, and then another one. And I'm going to find what I like, or I'm going to have a rotation, and I'm going to take what I like from here and leave what I, don't like from wherever else. But now it's all so easy because you have, social media. And so, again, it goes back to that personal time and that perspective and just staying honed in on, what God is giving you and the people that he's placed in your life.
Well, I think it's wild because I feel like the more I grow in the ministry, it takes a lot for you to ground yourself and to say, this is what I'm doing for my family. This is what I want. This is what I believe. And I'm going to sit with it. And I'm going to let it do. Because one of the things that, it's kind of off subject. One of the things I was talking to my mom about was that, I can see, like, going deeper, I can see how God starts to shine the light in your life and he starts to weed out those things. So that's why you church hop or you hop to another opinion, because God starts to bring the light. And so you're faced with the option of, okay, I'm going to yield and I'm going to submit and I'm going to do what God is telling me to do and how he's wanting to change me, or I'm just going to leave it alone. Mm-hmm. And if I don't look at it and if I act like it's not there, I'm not gonna worry about it. But then those are the other people that it's kind of like when they go out, and I think that's why Paul the Apostle said that, is that when you go out and you're not paying attention, you drift away. And you don't even know you're drifting away. And by the time you look, you're too far gone. And one of the things that I really feel like God is talking to me about and teaching me is just to sit and to wait upon God and to hear his voice and to like position yourself. Because I think it's cool that you're talking about what your brother said. Pastor Troy, our pastor, said something, and I was like, this is like, I was like, wow, that's crazy to think about. God is speaking. Now, this is him saying this because I feel like he hears the voice of the Lord so much. God is speaking a lot more than I'm hearing. For him to say that, it's like, that is insane. So, and then I just thought, and so I was like, Lord, help me to hear your voice better. And then slowly but surely he starts, okay, so let's take this away. We'll weed this out. You don't need this anymore. You don't really need to scroll. You need to block that off of your phone. Not anything horrendous, but just time wasters. Scrolling on Facebook, scrolling on Instagram. Oh, I wonder what my old friend is doing here. Or I wonder, what does that matter to you or your life? If you're really wanting to grow and be beneficial. So, and that's where so that's why I was telling my mom, I was like, I get it. I get how you can be just full in for the Lord. And then you get to this like rock and a hard place where God starts saying, okay, we're going to go deeper now. This is going to cost more of yourself. You're going to strip these things off. And so instead of just sitting in it and letting God, the purifying fire, just burn all that stuff off. Because fire doesn't feel good. But for you to just sit in there and just say, okay, I'm okay. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to let it do. Yep. Instead, I'm going to say, I'm going to go find another opinion. Or I'm going to go find someone else. What it is. I know go ahead.
I know this might be contrary to popular belief. I think it's harder in a good season than it is in a bad.
Yeah.
I feel like I see when things go good and everything that you've been praying starts to come into fruition and come to pass, and you think like, man, I asked the Lord to do this, and he did, he did.
I'm like, oh no. I'm like, did I take the Kool-Aid? I'm like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm. I think that's when it really does become easy to lose focus because it's like, where the word says that they praise the creation rather than the creator, but he's the one who gave it to begin with. I think that our minds, just from a carnal sense, we get so, when things start going good, it becomes easy to not think about the fact that there's still more to do. That was a blessing
more of him
that he gave you, but you still need more of him. At your highest point, you need more of him. At your lowest point, you need more of him. This day. And I think it's harder to feel that when everything is starting to, go right, and you start to see that light at the end of the tunnel, but you got to stay in it.
I feel like I agree. I feel like that's where your faith is really tested. Is like where your priorities is. I keep hearing this in the back of my head through these weeks of like, do you love me more than these? Because that's where it is. Do you love me more than that? More than even, so many things when you go deep into Christianity. More than the applause, more than the pats in the back, more than the notoriety that you get. Oh, look at this person. Oh, look at how great they're doing. All of that, it doesn't matter when it comes to the presence of God. And there's nothing to counterfeit the anointing of God on your life and what you've sacrificed in secret. He'll obviously reward you openly. But there's just so many things that when you get down to it, I really do agree with that. It's the better.
And it's like, it's crazy how we were talking about, motherhood, because that's one of the biggest blessings. That's one of the biggest blessings. And that's, kind of where you were asking, well, explain where, the shift does or does not come in when, you become a mom, where you still don't lose that mentality of seeking and saving that which is lost, and being kingdom minded, keeping the main thing, with having a daughter. Having a child, to me, you have other moments in your life that are, you could say are more amazing, like, giving your life to the Lord, or just that awe moment where you realize he's on your side, he loves you. Like, because that's what it was for me. Like when I went all in and said, man, I'm gonna serve the Lord for the rest of my life, there was this mental block where I just didn't get and understand that beyond what I feel my feelings don't have to be reality, and that he really truly is for me. Yeah. He doesn't want to be against me. He wants me, like he loves me, and he'll give you everything that you need to build that house and to serve him.
He has the best version of your life, better than you could ever even think it, which is wild.
And so that's one of those moments, serving the Lord, and then you have things like getting engaged and awaiting the wedding day, with your husband, and for a man with his wife, and you have that constant feeling of, man, Jesus is coming in the clouds. He's going to come back for me. Yeah. Like there's these different feelings that you have, and then you have a kid, and that's a feeling of its own. You know what I mean? Like even that is just the memories from that, and just the way that I felt. I'll never forget that. Oh, yeah. Just how that felt and stuff, and just what a blessing it really was to be able to be blessed to be a mother, but even in that moment, because everything is, I mean, at least to me, I know some people become a mom like, what did I get myself into? You know what I mean? Or the crying and the stand up and the, the different amount of sacrifice.
I live for all of it.
Yeah,
every bit of it. Potty training's probably the worst, but I still live for it. I live for all of it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's
in those moments where you start thinking like, everything that God has done was for me to get to this moment, but that's just a part of the bigger picture. Yeah. And it's something that was special to me. I remember when the Lord showed me through a vision, that I would marry, who's now Pastor Thomas, him showing me, just a silhouette of him. I just knew it was him because I knew him in real life. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, nobody else looks like him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's him.
It's a man, I know.
And even at that point, it was not this thing where, I just liked him forever and this, that, and the third.
Yeah,
it's like,
I know. Yeah.
You know that story. Yeah. Other people don't really know that story.
I know.
But
I'm overreacting. Like, with you, it's hard because I forgot that we're even doing this. Yeah. I think it doesn't help that I haven't seen you in a minute.
A long
either.
time. Yeah. And so we've
been making it not laughing because I tell y'all, we were laughing too hard earlier. I was like, I don't know if we're gonna make it.
No way.
Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But I just remember seeing, that vision and seeing that silhouette of him and me being next to him. I'm by his side, and in the vision, it's just a long aisle is what it seemed like, but that aisle is white, but everything else is grayed. You cannot, that there's things there, and there was different flashes of different points of life, like the wedding day, the becoming parents, things of the ministry, that I saw, in that vision that the Lord, he was speaking to me and giving me those things. And he was showing me that, that long haul, it just represented like eternity and kingdom mindedness, because even after all the things that, you can't totally make out, but you can see what they are. Like you have a semblance of what it is, and just life circumstances, hardships, certain milestones in life that you saw, but beyond that, it was more. It never ended. And he was showing me that this is forever, not you marrying him, but this life, there's eternity. He's going to be with you. You're going to marry him, but it's for the long haul. It's for eternity. There's going to come a time, where you'll be with me in heaven, but he won't be your husband in heaven. I don't like saying that, but I love my husband. Yeah, I don't like saying that very often. Yeah, I don't like that fact, but
I'm like, I know it's sort of God, and we cherish every word, but that's...
but we know that, that there'll come to a point where those things, They don't mean what they once meant. You know,
I think it's so stunning that you
prepare
said
us
that.
for that time.
Yeah, that
when
it's
we go
forever.
To be with him. Yeah,
it's with him. It's forever.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
and him just showing us that yep, there's gonna come all those things, but then beyond that, you know, and all of this is to equip you for the beyond that. Is this right now? You know, I think that over time that's something that the Lord has really shown me, you know, and something that I've heard our Pastor Troy say. So I told my wife, Mel, and I love them to death. You know, I told my wife, you know, there's nothing that we ever saw started bad that ended bad. Nothing. Maybe in this life, you've seen where, you know, someone, you know, stricken with illness, and then they die.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or
well, both of us have gone through deaths in our family.
Yeah. You know, you've seen that, and so something started bad and it ended bad. But I'm, you know, not to bring this up because I know it's still, even after all these years, still a very hard and touchy thing for you. But your grandmother, I just believe that what she went through and her not getting, you know, healing in this life.
Yeah.
It's done things in people's life who had never met her.
Yeah.
The stories that come from that. And in that time, the place of abiding that she had to continue on, you know, and maybe not most people, you know, watching this will know that story, but your grandmother had cancer and it got really bad and 90 pounds soaking wet by the time she passed away. And she did miss church. She would sit on a cooler on the streets. Ask people to lift her hands for her so that she could worship the Lord and, you know, play the keys and, you know, just be in the presence of God. Go to Mardi Gras to do, you know, go to Mardi Gras. Go do all the things that we think are common and a burden. And here it is. She's
her last time of her life. She's begging to do it.
Begging for somebody to be there with her to do it. And people laid hands on her and Pastor Aaron, he talks about it to this day. Man, I really did believe
his hernia
God was going to heal her. He was healed in the midst of praying for her to be healed. But, you know, I really just brought that up because you might say, I lost my nanny. You did. But look at all the fruit of her laboring that still is existing.
Exactly. And it's wild, even though, because like later on in life, I obviously, you know, I ended up losing my sister to an accidental overdose and then my uncle to an actual overdose. But I will say, and this might not make any sense, but how I saw Jesus is irreplaceable in those times. Like I would have never saw him the way that I see. Like because it's exactly what you said. It's forever. So those unlocked like a deeper anguish that I had, and I was just able to see a side of him that I would never wish death on anybody, but the amount of suffering that you go through, you really do gain a deeper place where, because this life is temporary, I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't trade it.
I think it's funny that, you know, you were saying that because it reminded me of just the times where, you know, I had, after being married, of course, you know, had gotten pregnant and had lost a baby a couple different times, and then just in that time of trying and, you know, just different things like that. Some might say that ended bad, but, you know, and that was a loss. It was, you know, and there was grieving in that time, but in that time, I believe that more than any other situation in my life, I learned to press through. I learned to fight. I learned that everything we go through in this life is temporary. I learned that in those times, he won't fail you. He won't fail you. We can look to the left and to the right. We can look for, you know, people who have been in the ministry for a long time, but the crying to Jesus, that it's like nothing else. There's nobody who can heal you the way that he can. There's no one who can teach you the way that the Holy Spirit can. And I remember, the morning after I found out that I had miscarried, which a couple days prior to that, I saw a baby alive, moving, breathing, heartbeat, on a monitor. And I go back and I see that same baby no longer living, and everything is gray as if it was never even there. The baby's gone. Dead. And I'm, the next morning, after that, I wake up in bed and, my husband leaves and, he has to get back to work, and real life comes again with, these things. And, I remember, some people having an opinion, of my husband for not staying home with me and not, for a week or not, they had this, they had an opinion that, he's going back to work. He said, yeah, he is. Yeah. He's going back to work. That's what we have to do, to make it. And that's okay, And, the Lord is with me, But I remember waking up that morning and laying in my bed and just looking up, and tears started to come down my face. And I felt like the weight of the world just came in. In that moment, I knew it was a spiritual thing.
Oh, yeah.
And when I felt it, just on me, I said, I got to get up. I got to get up. I can't lay here and allow all these things to overtake me, all these circumstances, these problems, and it wasn't material. That was my baby, And so it was deeper than, hate to say this as if it's a little thing, but it's happened to me. My house burning down and us not having anything. That happened already. We're past that. This is a person now,
Yeah.
And I just remember, getting up and saying, I got to get up. I got to get up. People need me. I'm going through something, but people need me. Jesus suffered and people still needed him. It didn't, ministry did not stop. Other people's problems did not stop because you have a problem. It's still the kingdom.
Yeah.
Through come hell, come high water, it's still the kingdom.
And it's wild to say you received the deepest healing by being that to somebody else.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
And, I remember, through that time fighting, there wasn't a day for probably until having, my daughter, and there's still been some days where that's come up and I thought about that and just cried, But I just remember, early on just saying, like, Lord, like, if I never am able to, go to full term with a child and bear a child, if I'm never able to do that, I won't just not serve you because that's only a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a blessing that I want to have. That's a blessing I believe that you want me to have. But that's a part of the bigger plan.
And it's weird when death and grief do that too, because I remember after, it's weird because it's a fear that hits you and it's like, I don't know what I'll do if this doesn't happen or if this doesn't go the way. And I remember after I lost my sister, and then right after that I lost my uncle. And I remember sitting in my living room and I was like, Lord, if I lose everybody, you're still enough for me. And it was almost like the fear left me of death, of dying. I was like, because you have to, I put myself in that. I was like, Lord, if I lose everybody today, my children, my husband, my parents, my brothers, I said, I'll still choose you. Where else could I go?
That's so hard, yeah.
Where else could I go?
Yeah.
Because my home isn't here anyways, and I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's just such powerful stuff.
It is. And, I remember saying that to the Lord. And I also remembered, in that time of the Lord just ministering to me. And I had, in that area of my life and that section of my life, I had never seen or never experienced the Lord give people such specific words of prophecy for me.
Yeah.
And people looked at me in that time and thought, she's just suppressing hurt. Yeah. She's just trying to move on and keep herself busy. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm still grieving.
She's like, catch me in my closet. Yeah, for real.
I'm still grieving. But something that I didn't realize was happening until I saw, and this is not to say anything bad. I just don't know her from a personal level, on a personal level. But I remember seeing this video of CeCe Winans talking about how she lost, her brother, and how, she was grieving, but she knew, I still have to go on.
Yeah.
I can't shut down. Him dying does not change, who Jesus is and who he is in my life. It does not. It does not change the goodness of God. And she was talking about how she remembers crying and balling up, and that's a natural reaction to cry and go into that fetal position. But I remember, when it was me, like that day when I said, man, I got to get up. I got to get up. I can't stay here. I remember all I was able to do was I was crying, but I remember just pulling myself out of the fetal position and raising my hands to the Lord. And I kid you not, it changed my grief.
Yeah.
Because there was still, from a practical sense, that raising your hand, being that surrender, but also from a spiritual sense, it's also that surrender. Lord, here I am, like I need you to, to speak to me. I need you to move in my life. I need you to go on. Jesus. And I remember her talking about that. I'm like, wow, like, wow.
It's wild that you say that, because one of the ladies that it's part of our church, shout out, she's literally incredible. Grandma Moppy, she's taught me so much. She's taught me that you have a choice on that's why Jesus was tempted like every man, except for he didn't sin. You have the choice to say, I will not let this overcome me. And which is wild, even through death. That's crazy.
You do.
Because you can say, even though I feel this, that's where the power of the Holy Spirit comes in. I don't have to succumb to this. And you can literally push through. And it's unbelievable the amount of strength you can gain. It doesn't make it any easier.
It doesn't.
You just go through it.
And it's still, you just realize it's still a choice, because I think when it hurts and when it's hard, we want to alleviate the fact, just completely get rid of the fact that everything that we go through is a choice. And not everything that you go through, some of your circumstances are not your choice, but the perspective that you'll have, it is.
Yeah. And what you feed yourself, you have to feed yourself life. You've got to. I remember when all that stuff happened, praise and worship, having Emerson read the word over me, literally dousing yourself in the Spirit of God, finding yourself around people that encourage you. And I just want to encourage anybody that's watching, anytime you go through grief or through hurt, there's always a way out. There's always a way where God, in his mercy, and he enables you to sustain you through those times. Not that the grief really, because grief comes in waves, just what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
But I literally had a dream of my sister the other day, and I was just thinking about her. But it's that we can go through it, and Jesus is there with us. We don't have to go through it alone. Because there's times where I'll be grieving. Emerson can't do nothing for me.
Yeah.
He can be there for me and love me, but there's only something that Jesus can do. And now when I pray for people, and because we had prayer the other night, I was just like, and you hear it in the scriptures too, when people had sick children or sick, you just got to get them to Jesus. That's all I can do for you. Yeah. That's all I could do. That's all I could do. But it's just, I don't know, it's just wild, the things that you can go through. And even with the grief that I've been through with our family, it's like, Jesus, I tell you, the experiences that I've had with Jesus is and then you understand, the deeper you go, that Jesus is still grieving for the ones that he's died to save. Mm-hmm. And then there's that where you can couple with him. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I tell my husband all the time is I say, I want my life to comfort the heart of the Father, not grieve it more. Because it's being grieved constantly by, I mean, you even think about what he said when he saw, he's like, he was hurt and he was sorry that he ever made man, you know? Mm-hmm. And I think about that all the time. I'm like, you must be looking out and thinking, like, there's so many people that just choose not to have anything to do with you. And I'll go to the mall or to wherever, and I just look at a crowd of people, and I'm like, you know every one of these people intimately. Mm-hmm. And they want nothing to do with you. And so when I think about stuff like that, and even the grieving, like, that's something that he feels all the time. Mm-hmm. And so but you won't get that part of Jesus unless you open the door and say, come into my grieving heart, and I want you to come and sit with me. And then when he heals that, you learn more about him, and it's unbelievable how much you learn. I remember when I went through the death of my uncle, one of the things that God had told me about, you know, because it says that he was uncomely and that he was obviously the man of sorrow. And one of the things that he talked to me about was the deeper that you go with the Lord, the more you understand of what grieves his heart. So the more that you start to weed things out of your life that doesn't please him or that doesn't comfort his heart. And then, you know, there's the burden of actually having to carry that, you know, that burden of the anguish of the loss and dying. And we obviously know that because we preach the gospel and we understand that. But there's a deeper level where it's like, man, the heart of the Lord is constantly just, he desires that none should perish. Mm-hmm. And it's just so important. But it's just unbelievable how many his mercies are new every morning. That's what Girl Moppy tells me all the time. She's like, he's new every morning. Mm-hmm. So go find something else new about him. I'm like, I know. That's so like sweet. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yes. He's so good.
He is.
He's so good. Yes. That's it. Well, we've run out of time. I feel like we could go for 14 hours. No, not 14. 14. That's a long time. Yeah. But it has been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. He's so good. I feel him. He's here right now, and I love him so much. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And we will see you guys next time.